Welcome, Rob and Sid. Good to have you with us here on Sound Up.
Thank you.
I'm pretty excited about this fall release. There's tons of ground to cover with you guys, but I'll just for laughs, I'll just start off with you're working with a guy who is credited with inventing the concept album on
Yeah.
your concept album.
Yeah.
How did that idea begin for Afterglow? Did Pete contribute, or how has Pete contributed in that way?
Wow. I mean, Pete has kind of. I'll get really deep for a second.
Please.
Pete has kind of, to put it lightly, he's kind of shaped my adult life in a strange way because I met Rob, who I'm now married to, because of Pete Townsend, and it was on this touring production of Quadrophenia, which that was the first time I left home. It was the first time I dealt with like money, adult money on my own. You know, I wasn't with my parents. I was eating whatever I wanted, yada yada. And it's kind of because of Townsend that not only did we get together, but we started a band and we started making music together. And because of Quadrophenia, so the whole, I think it was kind of a no-brainer that once we've already done one album that we just released ourselves, we wrote ourselves, but we were a very young band at the time and we were just putting out music because we were new and we were excited and we hadn't grasped the idea of a concept or a story or whatever you want to call it. But when it came to the second one, once we knew that Townsend wanted to be involved in some way, I think it kind of became, oh, well, if we're working with him, we might as well go big, right?
Step
you know
it
what
up
I mean?
a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. You can't just have like a bunch of songs that are just about whatever. It all had to kind of tie in. And, you know, it also fell. We wrote some songs with him in the studio, or he produced some of these songs in the studio. The album wasn't finished yet, and then COVID hit and then pandemic. And that wasn't, I'm not going to say it was a blessing, but it gave us time to kind of ruminate on what this would become. Which then, you know, given that time, Afterglow as a whole became a lot bigger. Am I right? Or are you?
No, you just, I'm really proud. You know?
Oh, thank you.
So explain, because I think you've said that Afterglow
Look,
sort
they
of
have a handshake, you guys.
I know, it's good. Got the visual.
Sorry, go ahead.
I think you've said Afterglow has this sort of choose your own adventure, play a different secret. Like, how did you actually put this thing together? Especially in a world where we know, you know, albums, whatever, who listens to albums?
Yeah.
I mean, that was kind of the original way, I think, and Rob, please stop me if I'm saying it wrong. Like, that was kind of the original way that it formed, because we know that people don't traditionally listen to albums like they used to. We wanted to put this formula of a story that you could then put in order, any order that you wanted, to make sense of it while it's still coming to the same conclusion. So you can listen to one song, you can listen to all the songs, but they're all within the same universe. You can playlist it whatever order you want. You know what I mean? It was kind of just so that we could put out into the world something that was maybe a bit different. We'd never heard of it being done before. We still don't think. Nobody come at me, nobody sue me if it has been done before, but we're saying it hasn't. So that was kind of our thing. And again, you know, we were obviously very inspired by Pete and what he'd done, and we knew his music way before we knew him personally. So we kind of, again, probably our egos wanted to match up to that and try and do something akin to what he did, but also a bit different, you know, I think.
Well, you said something that is interesting for concept albums, which, I mean, the Pete Townsend concept album starts with an intro and the story's laid out, and here's the set, you know, here's the but yours is not like that. So how does that play for us when you say you can listen to the tracks in any order? What is it about this story that allows that to happen? That, you know, if you're reading a book, if you start in the middle, you don't know what's going on. So how does this work?
Absolutely. It's almost more of we were as influenced by television and short form stories as we were by albums. And when we were chatting to Pete about these songs, and he was talking about, he puts himself inside universes to then begin writing these sort of overarching stories. We kind of realized we were accidentally writing from a perspective that wasn't necessarily the perspective of a person, but more we like to find a space and then think about the stories that sort of come out of that. So it actually, like, retroactively then became, we were writing about this town called Valentine, which we'd made up. And all these stories sort of started coalescing, and we were just like, wouldn't it be interesting if they were all happening at the same time? And it's these stories, these heightened stories, that all happen at the same time. And what does that do to each song, and what does that do to the listener? And the more we explored that, the more we thought, well, if we use the device, which we call the afterglow, but it's the idea that there's this magical evening that happens where every emotion and all these sort of incredible events heighten everything. Then what we could do is, in theory, give the audience like a series of choices and go, you can fall in love with this song because it's a story. Or if you fall in love with these two songs and you notice that it's raining in these stories, that rain's happening at the same time, you might fall in love with that. And what we really wanted to do was give the audience the agency to take ownership of what these songs are, because I think that's so important for people these days, and you see how tightly people hold on to artists and hold on to songs. And this is, it eventually became our way of giving that back to people. So you can listen to the album as we do it, and you can hear the stories, or my dream, or our dream, is that you fall in love with this song more. So maybe that can go first. And then you see what happens to the rest of that stuff and what the emotional journey then becomes.
Well, it's funny because most people complain, people just cherry pick the songs that they like, or they listen on shuffle and they don't really appreciate. And I think you would say, well, if you listen on shuffle, you'll get a different experience each time that you go through this.
Exactly. Or if you only want to listen to like 3 or 4 of the songs, that's what we want as well. It's up for complete interpretation as to how you want it.
Yeah.
So you guys come from not just an acting background, but continue to be in different series you can see on Netflix, on Amazon Prime, Rob and Bridgerton. How has that side of your brain impacted thinking about putting an album together? Is that where you came to an idea as not through narrative, but as as narrative driven as what this is?
For sure.
Yeah,
I mean,
100%.
when you're acting, obviously you're playing a character, you're reading from a script. And I think when it came to songwriting, especially like our first record, we were obviously writing things from our perspective. But I think especially at the time that we started writing Afterglow, and I don't want this to sound like super privileged, but we didn't have many problems. We were pretty happy. And no good writing really comes from that. You don't be like, yeah, I got some really cool deals at the supermarket today. You know what I mean? It's like, no one wants to listen to that. And I think, or maybe they do, each to their own. But I think the thing of writing from a different character's perspective or an entire story's perspective, it gives you the opportunity to create an entire universe within an album or a song or what have you. And then transfer that to stage as well. From a performing perspective, I find it so useful to kind of create characters when I'm singing. It shoots the nerves out the way, when you get on stage, because you're not being yourself, you're being somebody else, and you can completely sidestep away from your day-to-day person. So I think for us, especially with this album, we're writing again at the moment, and I would say again, this isn't necessarily music or songwriting from our perspectives. We're still in that journey of, what if this story was a thing, or this concept, or like being inspired from other stories that we've heard, as opposed to again writing it from our personal experiences. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Did you just say you're working on another concept album? Is that what I heard?
I did.
I just want to be clear.
Maybe.
Head in hands for those listening.
I'm
sorry, Rob.
So sorry.
Don't mention the war.
All of this, we're talking about this, and a lot of these sound very high concept, very, this sounds very heady. You guys are a rock band. This is very physical, punchy rock music. It makes sense that it's you guys open for for the Who on some of those dates. Like all of that fits. Tell us the music side of all of this. I mean, you said you hadn't been in a band before. It was the Quadrophenia experience that brought you to this. If a lot of that stuff is coming from the acting and theater side, what's been the music piece that brings you to this point?
Ooh, well, I can't. Well, I don't have like a musical family in that my parents are very musical. But Cam, who is my brother, who's also in the band, he is one of those musicians that can look at an instrument and be able to play it like that. Like, I want to kill him, but he's very, very talented in that respect. And then another one of my younger brothers is really musically talented. And I grew up. I've got 4 brothers, so I was always listening to like Green Day and Blink-182 and this kind of rocky guitar-led bands and stuff. And I think that was always in my heart what I wanted to do, but the acting came first for me because nobody really listens to a 9-year-old girl when she's at private school and she says, I want to pick up a guitar, Mum and Dad. They're like, no, you will play violin and you will like it. So it was something that I'd always wanted to do. And Quadrophenia, when it came along as a tour, I was so blessed to be doing rock music on stage every night. It was a no-brainer after that, especially because it's so good at training your voice. That album is a riot to sing. It sort of channeled into itself from the acting very naturally. And also if there's any directors listening, please skip ahead 30 seconds. But I have a real problem with people telling me what to do. I don't like being directed. So being in a band meant that I could do it all myself. It's my words. It's my music. I can do what I want, So no one tells me what to do. Within reason in this band. So I'll listen to Townsend. I'll listen to Pete.
Yeah.
I'll listen to him.
Well, as Alan was saying, I mean, you guys, you come from an acting background. Not to say that you obviously you play instruments, you write, you sing, but does this wind up being now a left-hand turn for you guys? Because now you have a band, you have an album, you have to tour. Get ready. You'll be out for 2 years. How does Bridgerton think about that?
It's the dream.
It's
the dream.
It is the dream. I mean, again, I'm speaking for Rob here, but for me, this is always what I preferred doing anyway. Mm-hmm. I feel like you have a lot more freedom. You're certainly letting a lot more emotions out every night that you get to go on stage and play. It's a very cathartic thing. And I'm sure that is the case for a lot of actors as well. But I never found it truly cathartic. I was so focused, or am so focused, if I'm doing a good enough job when I'm doing the acting, that I find it tough to get out of my own head. Whereas this, you just let go and you forget. And it doesn't matter how crap the gig was, you still have a good time afterwards. It's still great. So yeah, the dream is to kind of go off and then, hopefully the tour and the album's a massive success, and then I don't know, a massive director comes and says, "Oh, be in my Marvel film," and you're like, "Cool, I'll do that in 3 months. That's fine." You know what I mean?
All mapped out.
Yeah, there it is. There it is. I'm just putting it into the universe in case. But I don't know. I've said that was for myself. I didn't. Rob, do you feel different? Do you feel the same?
No, I feel exactly the same. Acting is it's good. There's something very special about that acting. But I think when this opportunity to do this came around, and it wasn't really anything we had in mind, and then we all realized like we're all making music and loving making music together. It's just the immediacy of creativity and getting to share that with this like really tight band of brothers and sisters, and then getting to sort of all forms of creativity become a part of what that is. And then by the time you get to take it on stage, you get to look at people in the eyeballs who some of them are singing the back, some of them have never heard it before, some people you're winning over, some people already won over, and there's just this huge sort of a wave of connection, which is really, 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 really overpowering and special. And I haven't found it anywhere else. So it wasn't necessarily that I wanted to be a musician, but when I found music, I realized that like we were meant to be together, basically.
So 2 other guests involved that my initial thought was, what do these people have to do with each other? And then my second thought was, well, Tommy Thayer from Kiss and drag icon Trixie Mattel. And then I thought, well, makeup.
They both wear makeup.
Theatricality.
Yeah.
This actually works just fine. So tell us, how did both of these relationships and collaborations come to pass?
Both kind of by sheer bullying. We have a knack of bullying people into our lives. I mean, quite frankly, that's how we kept in touch with Townsend. After the tour of Quadrophenia, I had stolen his email address, so I was just sending him demos all the time. I'm sure he was like, "Who is this child? Like, get out of my emails." But you don't ask, you don't get. And the same thing happened with Tommy. We were invited to do the Kiss Cruise in 2022 in October.
Just pause.
I know.
Invited to do the Kiss Cruise.
It's still a mystery.
Yeah.
We still don't quite know the full story of how or why, but we thought it was a joke. We got the email through at like 10 p.m. at night in the UK, and we were like, Kiss Cruise? Nah, this is a scam. Like, absolutely not. But we didn't really believe it until we got on the boat, and then we were like, oh, cool, this is pretty sick. And we knew we were a band from the UK at the time. We'd done, I think it was 1 show in the US. No, we'd done our own show, so it was 2 shows in the US, and we'd done a big show with the Who. And we knew, or we suspected, a lot of people weren't going to know who we were. So we wanted to make a big impression. I think we were one of the only bands that dressed up for Halloween. We were David S. Pumpkins and the Skeletons from SNL, which, that was fun. But Tommy was kind of, at one point, he was just hanging out in the artist lounge, and I was like, now is the time. Nobody's talking to him. We have to go and talk to him and make an impression. We were like, are you coming to our show? Are you coming to our show, Tommy? But it turns out their room.
It was more like up there.
Oh, that's true. He's a very tall guy, and I'm pushing 5'2" at max. But it turns out that Kiss's lodgings, if you will, were right above the pool deck stage. So they'd heard our first show on the boat, which was on the pool deck stage, and he said he'd loved it. He heard we were playing a song called Only Attraction, which is on the album Afterglow, and he was like, that sounds like the Who, man. And we were like, funny you say that, Tommy. And we got to be buddies, and then they came to the last show that we had on the boat. Him, Paul Stanley, and Doc were there watching from the sidelines. Very blessed.
Doc is Doc McGee, the Kiss manager, for those who don't know.
I just dropped it like a first name basis there. I'm like, my body, Doc. Yeah. And after that show, they invited us on the UK Kiss tour, the final one. And in between those dates on the tour, we have a home studio, which we're in at the minute. And we invited Tommy to come here and write some stuff. And we're really buddy now. We take him to the pub, It's a lot of fun.
Well, aren't you two so cool?
I know. Whereas Trixie, on the other hand, that was kind of by, again, bullying, but also sheer luck. We did this thing called the Singles Club during COVID, where we were uploading acoustic covers of songs that we as individual band members really like. And I have been a big fan of Trixie's and her folk music for many, many years. And we did one of her songs, which is called Red Side of the Moon. And somebody on Instagram obviously sent it to her, and she got up in our DMs, and we basically bullied her into recording it properly with us. It took a long time, and it took some very expensive flights back and forth to LA, but we got it. And that one still leaves me a bit like, woo. Yeah, I'm not usually a nervous person, but
have you ever been a band manager? You I think that's your calling, maybe.
Maybe the next day. I enjoy the attention too much. I don't think I can be on the sidelines.
I don't know. That was the John Lennon when that first Beatles press conference. When they said, "How did you do it?" And he said, "If we knew how we did it, we'd all be managers and sign a bunch of other bands."
Yeah.
So true. So you guys, you have the album coming out. I want to press you on a couple of things. One, all I've seen is fall. Do we have a date?
Yes, September 13th.
Okay.
It's a Friday the 13th of September.
Perfect.
And just to guilt trip people more into getting it, downloading it, whatever, it's the day after Rob's birthday. So,
so if you really want to be sweet to this new friend that we've all met together,
exactly.
that would be a lovely present. Just a
He's
thought,
handsome,
no
he's charming,
pressure.
he's got blue hair, and it's his birthday the day before the album comes out. So, come on.
And the tour.
Yes.
Talk about what are the plans for the tour, and how does that manifest? How does this album manifest on stage?
Oh, we have so many big plans and dreams for what we want to do live with it. I mean, again, when COVID was around and we were all locked up, we wanted to put on a full-on touring stage show, like where it would be, you know, members of the audience would be sitting on stage. It wouldn't be a traditional setup. It would be the bar in the town of Valentine and Afterglow. It would be a story kind of thing, but still a rock show. Obviously, we cannot be doing that on a regular basis at the minute. So we're actually announcing some shows today. They're just in the UK. They're like 3 album release shows. And then hopefully we'll be making our way back stateside very soon, because we love it out there. We love the audiences. I think our favorite shows have all been in the States.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been very blessed with some of the venues that we've played and the memories that we've made. So very soon, hopefully, also hoping kind of full time, if not, you know, Christmas Eve, we'll be coming back out to you guys.
So it's interesting though. It's a fun puzzle to try and figure out. If I'm being completely honest, we're not 100% sure how we're going to, or what special thing we're going to do on the tour yet. It's this whole project is it sort of presented us with opportunities which we then sort of adjust and move around to. Like, we were trying to turn it into a TV show at one point, and we raised the funding to shoot like a proof of concept teaser.
Yeah.
And that became the album announcement. And then we decided to make a web game, like an old 80s choose your own adventure web game, where if you click on the text, it walks you around the town of Valentine.
Set in the town,
yeah. So when you like open certain doors, it will play songs. So it was like, that was trying to show people the concept of you can go different places in town and come across the little different bits of the song and stuff. So we haven't quite cracked the code of what we're going to do on this tour yet. We know we're going to play the album in full, and it's, you know, I don't know yet. We're going to find something to do that everybody's going to hate me for, but it's going to be. The last time somebody asked me what we were doing next, we ended up on an open top bus with Tommy Thayer breaking into Hollywood Boulevard and ruining Nicole.
There you go.
Yeah.
We miss you in New York for that. You owe us.
I know we do.
Right.
We do.
Need some adventures here as well. So
Yeah,
Come Around is the single out now. We just got the breaking news: Afterglow September 13th for release date, and various multimedia extravaganzas to follow.
Absolutely. Yes. This is the goal. This is the plan. We're very last minute, but we get it done.
Sydney Ray White, Rob Kendrick, you guys, thank you so much for joining us. I feel like we are among the early adopters for the Wild Things.
We know what to be looking for.
We're very excited to see what the future brings for you guys. Thank you for coming on.
Well, thank you so much for having us.
A lot of fun. Thank you.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it.